He announced he won't be seeking re-election after overseeing potentially the largest welfare fraud in American history. And I'll show you a clip from that press conference. He almost breaks down in tears. And just when he thought he could dodge accountability by rage-quitting politics, the Department of Justice announced that they are launching criminal investigations into Tampon Tim. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's start by hearing that Tim Walz is officially under criminal investigation.
Today, the Department of Homeland Security announced we have nearly 2,000 agents from the Homeland Security Investigations Team. The FBI is on the ground, and we're freezing money. HHS cut off funding for child care centers and for daycares. The USDA Secretary Rollins has been asking Governor Walz to see the recipients of SNAP in his state. So this is all hands on deck, rest assured. It's a top priority for President Trump. And he believes that Governor Walz is criminally liable. And I think the Department of Justice is going to find out.
Well, they should, because it's too much money to lose. You can't say, oh, oops, I don't know where it went, especially when all have those whistleblowers going crazy. And the AG there, Ellison, acting like he was running PR for these Somalians.
Do me a favor and smash that like button if that was the best thing you've heard all day. And before you say, Brandon, that will never happen, well, I have a bonus clip at the end of this video that proves otherwise, so make sure you stick around for that. The reason I'm so confident we will see criminal charges brought against Tim Walz is because this is not a case of negligence. This isn't Tim Walz being a self-described knucklehead and accidentally allowing some fraud to occur under his watch. The Minnesota government was well aware that fraud was occurring, yet they allowed it, enabled it, and encouraged it because they were benefiting from it. Year after year, they saw expenditures to these fraudulent programs explode in dollar amounts. And they didn't stop it, investigate it, analyze it. They silenced and threatened whistleblowers and continued to let it grow until it was too massive to ignore. And that's why Scott Jennings said, yeah, it looks like Tim Walz is going down.
He can't run from this accountability that he's going to have to face. Do you think he knew what was going on right under his nose in Minnesota?
Yes, look, a lot of this fraud's happening in the Medicaid program. Medicaid is run by the governor of the state. It's a state program. They take money in from the federal government. Most of it comes from the federal government, but it's administered by the governor and the state government that they run. And he and some of his people have also admitted that they looked the other way when whistleblowers brought the fraud to their feet because they didn't want to embrace it for calling it out. I mean, that was one of the stated reasons that we're not doing anything about it. So, yes, I think they knew about it. The whistleblowers told them about it. There are even some reports that they tried to penalize or punish whistleblowers for bringing it up, all because it's a political constituency, the Somali community there. I mean, my gosh, they even changed the state flag to look like the flag of Somalia. That's how much of a political constituency it is for Tim Walz. So, yeah, I think he knew. I think he did nothing. And I think he ought to be held accountable for it.
The fraud in Minnesota was conducted blatantly and unapologetically because oversight was non-existent. That's how you get a Somali daycare center that can misspell the word learning on its signage on a busy main road and still receive over $2 million from the state. The Minnesota government prevented oversight from being conducted because they already knew what the investigation would conclude. The doctrine of white liberal guilt and suicidal empathy mandates you must accept the massive welfare fraud in programs for children. If stopping that fraud just so happens to target a group that they deem to be marginalized, that is precisely how you get a situation like this next year.
In December 2021, the FBI installed a surveillance camera overlooking this building just off West Street in Minneapolis. At the time, it was Safari Restaurant, which overall took in $12 million in federal child meal payments, through Feeding Our Future. Safari's former co-owner, Salim Saeed, is on trial alongside Amy Bach, the Feeding Our Future executive director. Safari claimed to feed 4,000 to 6,000 kids a day. Its invoices and meal counts shown to the jury alongside the video. An FBI agent testifying that an average of 40 people came and went during the 6 weeks it was surveilled. The FBI set up a total of 12 cameras at sites claiming to serve extraordinary numbers of meals. Another was at a deli in St. Paul call, also registered by defendant Salim Saeed, which claimed 1,800 meals per day. The video, shown to the jury, showed an average of 23 people a day coming and going.
Tim Walz and the Minnesota government allowed a bunch of Somali pirates to steal $9 billion to the taxpayer because they thought it would be racist to stop. In a video I made back in August or September, I exposed that now infamous Omar, I'm the captain of this boat now Fateh, as a state senator in Minnesota, was trying to write and pass laws that would directly give funding to his wife's nonprofit. That was part of the housing welfare program that Somalis were pillaging. And Tim Walz is 100% complicit in the fraud because there was no mention of it during his vice presidential campaign. It was being suppressed and hidden from the public. But now the lid has been blown completely wide open and the situation is untenable. And that's why Tim Walz is forced to end his political career in disgrace. Let's hear it.
Several years, an organized group of criminals have sought to take advantage of this state's generosity. And even as we make progress in the fight against the fraudsters, we now see an organized group of political actors seeking to take advantage of our crisis. I don't want to mince words here. Donald Trump and his allies in Washington and in St. Paul and online want to make our state a colder, meaner place. They want to poison our people against each other by attacking our neighbors. And ultimately, they want to take away much of what makes Minnesota a faster place in the country to raise a family. They've already begun trying to withhold funds that were meant to help families afford child care. And they have no intention of stopping that. Make no mistake, we should be concerned about fraud in our state government. We cannot effectively deliver programs and services if we can't earn the public's trust. A single taxpayer dollar wasted on fraud should be intolerable. And while there's a role to play for everything, from the legislature to prosecutors to insurance companies to local and county government, the buck does stop it. In September, I announced that I would seek a historic third term as Minnesota's governor. And I have every confidence that if I gave it my all, we would win the race. But as I reflect on this moment with my family and my team over the holidays, I came to the conclusion that I can't give a political campaign my all. Every minute that I spend defending my own political interest would be a minute I can't spend defending the people of Minnesota against the criminals who prey on our generosity and the cynics who want to prey on our differences. So I've decided to step out of this race, and I'll let others worry about the election while I focus on the work that's in front of me for the next year.
Even in the face of indisputable evidence that Tim Walz was allowing the Somali diaspora to rob the taxpayer because they were funneling that money back to Democrat politicians, he wants to blame MAGA, he wants to blame Donald Trump, he blames people playing politics. He's allergic to accountability because even he's aware that accountability for what he allowed to happen means he is going to jail. And he knew that if he stayed in the race, the Republicans were going to wipe the floor with him. So who's running as the Democrat nominee instead of Tim Walz now? Well, of course, another white Somali-loving liberal. Take a look.
markastana u taagan danta dalka iyo dadka ummadda Soomaaliyeed walaalayaal si kalgacal leh oo reyn leh waxaan jeclahay inaan sanatareemi kolo bashar ila soo dhawaysaan walaalayaal
Some assistance, please.
Thank you, everyone. Did I wear the right color today?
This is Pam Bondi's opportunity to redeem herself in the eyes of men. Tim Walz's excuse for not conducting proper oversight year over year because it's racist won't hold up in the court of law. His attorney general was caught on audio taking bribes from Somali fraudsters and vowing to protect them and fight for them. Same with the attorney general's son, who was a Minneapolis city council member. I think the biggest testimony is going to come from the whistleblowers who allegedly told Tim Walz directly that fraud was occurring. And he silenced them and threatened them if they made that information public. And he thinks he can just run away from politics and all his problems will be solved. But here's his daughter saying the real reason all of this is happening The real reason there's a target on Tim Walz is because Donald Trump is mad that he isn't Tim Walz.
Dad would say part of the decision he decided to step away from the race was to kind of get that target off of Minnesota. I think he believes if he's not in the race, they have nothing else. Because he has that, national profile. Trump just hates him for some reason. I think it's because he's everything Trump will never be. So there's that, and I think without him in the race or trying to, continue governing the state past next year, I think he thinks that kind of the target will be off.
I mean, these people are so arrogant and narcissistic. They believe they're perfect people. They believe they can't do any wrong. And when people are mad at them and criticize them, it's really because they're jealous. They can't be compassionate, tolerant, inclusive people like them. But in the wake of Tim Walz announcing his resignation from politics, we got a post of solidarity from none other than Gavin Newsom. Tim Walz is a man of character, strength, and compassion. He has served Minnesota with heart and dignity. Minnesota and America is better off thanks to his lifelong public service. Wishing him all the best in this next chapter. Thank you. I mean, what does character, strength, and compassion even mean anymore if you're attaching those characteristics to Tim Walz? But we also got a tweet from his former boss, Kamala Harris. I spoke with Governor Walz today, and what was clear, as it has been throughout his career, is that his decisions are always guided by what's best for the people of Minnesota. Tim has spent his life in public service putting Minnesotans first, leading with integrity, compassion, and a deep respect for working families. His decision not to seek re-election reflects that same selfless commitment to the people he serves. I want to thank him for his extraordinary leadership. Doug and I wish Tim, Gwen, and the entire Walz family the very best in their next chapter. Our country is stronger because of Tim's service. And I'm grateful for his friendship. When you see stuff like this, it shows how unscrupulous the entire country is and how we're all ignore and deflect from reality just to protect one of their own. Kamala Harris didn't even bother vetting her own vice president. She did and just found nothing wrong. The worst part about these self-hating white liberals is they think it's morally righteous for the Somali people to benefit at the expense of Americans. That's why they allowed the fraud to perpetuate, because in their sick, twisted mind, it was some sort of social justice reparations initiative. But now for the bonus clip I promised you at the beginning of the video. 2 Democrat state representatives in Florida were federally charged for fraud. So the idea that Tim Walz won't get charged because he's a politician, well, these 2 politicians got charged for much less.
Breaking news here at 6. Federal agents charged a second Georgia lawmaker with defrauding taxpayers through pandemic unemployment insurance. A grand jury indicted Stone Mountain Democrat Karen Bennett. Prosecutors allege she obtained unemployment benefits for employees even though her business remained open through the pandemic. Bennett becomes the second Georgia lawmaker arrested on pandemic-related fraud charges. A grand jury also indicted Covington Democrat Sharon Henderson last month. Both are out on bond.
Again, it's not that the fraud occurred that was the crime. It was that the fraud exponentially grew year after year after year. Yet the Minnesota government, led by Tim Walz, refused to put any barriers in place to stop it. They refused to limit it. They refused to address it. They refused to investigate it. They refused to do site visits. They refused to acknowledge irregularities. Tim Walz just simply abdicated all of his responsibilities as the head of Minnesota. I'm from Illinois, where before J.B. Pritzker, 4 of our last 8 governors were all arrested. So this isn't novel, this isn't unheard of, and the fact that these Somali fraudsters were then donating the money to Democrat politicians from Tim Walz all the way down to city council members shows the complete complicity across the board. Tim Walz's days are numbered, and I predict that we see something serious happen to him by the end of the year for sure. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video.
Cosmos heals you.
Ready.
And I will see you guys in the next one.
Together.
Go on to protect Protect your rear.
You are nothing!
The UK, again, taking a similar approach to what we're going to be doing here in Australia, which is to target platforms like X, formerly Twitter, with massive fines if they don't censor users. So these platforms are either going to face financial ruin or they're going to have to censor people.
Absolutely, and you know, we've already seen where this leads. You remember after three jihadists went across London Bridge in 2017, slashing at women's throats and shouting Allahu Akbar. The then British Prime Minister Theresa May gathered with all the great and the good, the Mayor of London and everyone else important, and talked about how we have to crack down on online content. It had nothing to do with online content. Look at the knife killer, Axel Rubicana, who killed those 3 poor young girls in Southport last summer. Some of the media said things like he was the Amazon killer because he'd ordered the knife from Amazon. I mean, this is what they're going to keep doing. They're going to keep blaming social media companies and online things because they can't deal with the real world. They can't deal with the real world, and they should.
They should. Now, let's stay in the UK. There appears to be a massive flaw in Keir Starmer's plans to tackle illegal immigration. The Sun reports illegal immigrants could dodge deportation under Labour's one-in, one-out swap deal with France by simply lodging human rights appeals. Douglas, the plan, which started yesterday, includes a clause where anyone making a human rights claim cannot be sent back until their case is heard in the courts, and as we know, that can take some time.
It'll just never happen, Rita. I'm willing to take a bet for any sum of money right now. It's just not going to happen. Keir Starmer, the Attorney General, Lord Hammer, all these people are baked in this industry, this heavily taxpayer-supported industry, whereby somebody breaks into the country illegally and then gets all the legal representation they need to put up some bogus reason for why they're in the UK and why they've broken it. And there is such a backlog in the UK as in most other European countries. There's such a backlog that you could have all-night courts, you know, of the kind that were able to be put in place after the Southport riots, of course. But you can have all-night courts running for years, and you would still not sort out the backlog of people who are already illegally in prison. So the idea they're ever going to address with this scheme, the idea they're ever going to address this is for the birds. They are simply trying to placate the very significant and growing public concern about this. Because at some point you've got to ask, you know, most British taxpayers couldn't afford to live in a hotel at their own expense night after night. So why are they paying for people who've broken into the country to live in those hotels night after night? Why are we running up billions of dollars a year in housing people who've broken all the rules? I mean, at some point, something has to give. But I suppose Starmer and Hermer and co. just hope it won't happen on their watch.
Well, you can't expect to
It is an absurd situation. You've got a significant percentage of the British public who are living in what we call is energy poverty. They don't have enough money to effectively heat their homes in winter, cool them in summer. And yet you've got people breaking into the country, enjoying a standard of living that a lot of Brits could only dream of in 4-star hotels. Now, this is an interesting revelation in the Times from a police commissioner, Donna Jones, who says a government minister, she doesn't name which minister, pressured her over a...
2026 is finally here. Happy New Year, happy holidays. I hope you celebrated responsibly. Ladies and gentlemen, today an empire has fallen. From its ashes will rise a new power, one that is far more terrible than before. This is the rise of Microslop. Rest in peace to Microsoft. They officially kicked the bucket. They've gone full full force with this new name change. You know, you weren't always the greatest of companies, but, well, it's neither here nor there anymore. What's up, everybody? This is the Act Man here, and today, as you've no doubt been made aware, AI is ruining everything. Every single new day brings a new story. Some shit was going on with Grok undressing people. I saw an image of Charlie Kirk in a bikini. I didn't need to see that. Really did not want to see that. Never want to see it again, in fact. If I ever check Twitter, it's just a constant reminder of every horrible AI thing that's been going on. And while it might at times be annoying or feel redundant to make videos complaining about it, it's not like we can stop. We'll stop complaining about AI when it starts getting better. How about that? It's important. It's important to raise awareness of these issues. Yes, companies like Microsoft, formerly known as Microsoft, have invested heavily into this generative AI technology to such a staggering degree. It's actually been sucking the life force out of everything else. The land we live on, the energy we use to survive, the entertainment we consume, and the technology you and I purchase. Recently, we talked about how AI is rapidly raising the prices of critical computer components like RAM, graphics cards, effectively making the hobby of building your own PC and enjoying that small creature comfort much less attainable to the average consumer. Much less attainable to every consumer, honestly, because even though I could afford to pay $600 for RAM,
No, I'm not doing that.
I didn't pay $1,500 for a PS5 when the scalpers were selling them. What is it this time? Well, recently, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said it's time to stop talking about AI slop and start talking about a theory of the mind that accounts for humans being equipped with these new cognitive amplifier tools. I love this article. That sounds really neat, man. Could we have Arcane Austin back? No, I think I'm just gonna stick with slop. I think that's a lot of words. That's a lot of jargon and gobbledygook that you just said, and I have no fucking idea what any of that means. I think I'm just gonna stick with slop. I think slop is good. Yeah, as this article points out, Merriam-Webster's word of the year for 2025 was slop. It really is such a versatile word, even just in the way you can pronounce it. You go for like slop, slop-tacular, slopping spree, double slop. So somebody paid Jeff Steitzer to head slop booth metal announcements. I'm sorry. Okay, let's move on. That was fun though. The catch-all term for machine-generated crapola, or as Merriam-Webster more and politely defines it, digital content of low quality that is produced usually in quantity by means of artificial intelligence. Hard to argue with the pick, as PC gamers Lincoln Carpenter said it was a year full of AI humiliation. It started out with a stupid AI-generated Star Wars video and didn't stop until the calendar ran it. But while slop is without a doubt an appropriately defining word for 2025, Microsoft CEO says it's time to stop talking about it, because we need to move on to bigger and more important things, like how they're going to make this obscenely expensive and resource-sucking mistake generator that nobody wants actually work. Yes, this announcement that Satya wants people to stop calling it AI slop, and, well, it's gone over very well with people, you know, just kind of like the Barbara effect. You know, the more you tell people to stop doing something, the more they stop doing it. It's the opposite of the Streisand effect. This is the Barbara effect. Translation: please stop calling it AI slop. We spent 500 billion on it. Keep poking until they burst. When will this dirty bubble pop? Yeah, you can see the sentiments. Can't wait until this bubble pops. I seriously hope they go bankrupt. Stop calling it AI slop. No, I don't think I will. 74K likes. Wow. Wow. Legendary Drop says they are saying this because the negative discourse hurts investor hype in their bottom line. Insane amounts of resources are being invested while its use and ceiling is still unknown and average people see no benefit. The bubble will burst. Too much, too fast is a thing. I think he is dead on the money with that. At least in my mind, that sounds pretty accurate. As this new technology has been expanded, every tech company has been in a race to see what it's capable of. All they know is they want to control it. They don't know how to make it profitable yet, which is kind of a crazy business strategy if you're in the market of selling good products and services. You know, businesses had to do that to make money, just like make a good product and then sell it. They don't need that anymore. They just, as long as the value of the stock keeps going up, then the people that own that stock will be richer. See, they don't even have to make good products. They don't have to be a profitable business. At least as far as I can tell, all this AI slop shit has to do with the stock market. Economists in chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but it just feels like the stock market is completely divorced from reality, and that's why all these businesses are like Microsoft shutting down game studios that make great games, raising the prices of all their consoles and shit. The reason they're making all these decisions that don't make sense to the consumer is because it's not about the consumer anymore. It's about the investor. But I don't know what I'm talking about. That's just the vibe I get. Make slop. Mad that people are calling it slop. Am I so out of touch? It's the customer who's wrong. Microsoft will look you straight in the eye and tell you that you should stop calling this AI slop. Dear God. Yeah, please lower your expectation of quality and just be cool with it. That's exactly what it is. There's just something about corporate speech that makes me want to punch a wall. Brother, me too. And you know what? That's a perfect segue into reading Satya's actual blog post. Okay? Notes on advances in technology and real-world impact. Looking ahead to 2026, as I reflect on the past year and look towards the one ahead, there's no question 2026 will be a pivotal year for AI. Yes, another one. Fuck, not another one. But this moment feels different in a few notable ways. Yes, it does. We've kind of been well educated on how this technology provides basically no reward for the customer. You know, like people like me, you, the customer, the person watching this video. You're my customer by watching this video. How would you like it if I just pulled a Quibble cap and pulled out some AI bullshit Axeman for you? Would you be entertained? Would you eat the slop? Judging from the last video, it seems like people would rather watch me rant while I'm drunk. We have moved past the initial phase of discovery and are entering a phase of widespread diffusion. We are beginning to distinguish between spectacle and substance. Are we? Spectacle? Like the word spectacular? I wouldn't use the word spectacular to describe generative AI. Or substance. I would use terms like shock and horror and disgust and repulsive and jaw-dropping, unimaginable, unbelievable. We now have a clearer sense of where the tech is headed. Yeah, into the fucking dumpster. But also the harder and more important question of how to shape its impact on the world. I think we found the answers of how not to shape the impact of the world by, you know, let's not raise the price of every single possible consumer good. Let's not raise electricity bills. Let's not poison the earth. Let's not drain local water supplies. Let's not let Grok just undress anybody it wants to. Yeah, I think we have a good idea of what we don't want it to do. As far as what AI, how it should impact the world, as of this act, man, as little as humanly possible. We're still in the opening miles of a marathon, dog. We have been tripping every single step. Much remains unpredictable amidst this model overhang, where capability is outpacing our current ability to use it to have real-world impact. This is some of what we still need to get right. Okay, wait a second. Capability is outpacing our current ability to use it to have real-world impact. What does that mean? It's capabilities, so like the strength of technology is outpacing your ability to use it? You got me beat. I don't know. Number one, a new concept that evolves bicycles for the mind. Such that we always think of AI as a scaffolding for human potential versus a substitute. What matters is not the power of any given model, but how people choose to apply it to achieve their goals. See, this is the problem. Oh, I'm glad you said that, Satya, because that's the entire problem right there. You just described it. I personally don't think generative AI as a technology is inherently evil. or objectively bad for society. It's how people use it that is bad for society. And in the eyes of Microsoft and most other tech companies, AI is a labor replacement tool. That's where they see the profitability in replacing jobs and having to pay benefits. What does Microsoft already do? They routinely and historically rely on contractors, especially in their video game development, because they don't like paying people. They don't like giving them benefits, and they don't like making good games anymore. They don't make good products. They don't like doing that. AI, at least as far as I have seen, is just a labor replacement tool. They do with Black Ops 7 and 6. Oh, we got rid of a bunch of artists. They literally fired artists, replacing some of their work with AI. AI that is just worse. So it shows. You are exactly right, Satya. It's how you guys are choosing to achieve your goals with AI that is the problem. We need to get beyond the arguments of sloth versus sophistication and develop a new equilibrium in terms of our theory of the mind that accounts for humans being equipped with these new cognitive amplifier tools as we relate to each other. See, that entire sentence is wholly unrelatable because I have no idea what the fuck that means. What do you mean? A new equilibrium that accounts for humans equipped with cognitive amplifier tools that we relate to each other? This guy doesn't even speak English. This is what I hate about Corpo Speak, is that you can't even engage with an actual intellectual debate or conversation with him. Because this is just all nonsense. It's all bullshit. I'm just gonna use big words, and for some reason, the stock market will say good job and raise the price of the stock. Like,
what are you selling? What are you selling? Is it a product I can buy?
Yeah, see, maybe this would sound better if the entire tech and video game industry had not been hit with like 2 consecutive years of record-breaking layoffs. Maybe if you equipped the people you still had at that point with all these new tools, yeah, maybe.
In 2009, there was a 38-year-old Korean man sitting in a tiny room in Seoul, staring at the laptop he had been writing a script on. He was totally broke, buried under loans, and he had to find a way to pay his rent and cover basic living costs. The laptop in front of him was pretty much the most valuable thing he owned at the time, and he realized he had no choice but to sell it just to pay his rent and survive. His life wasn't supposed to turn out like this because he had taken all the right steps as a filmmaker. He studied communications at Seoul National University, then earned a master's degree in film production from the California School of Cinematic.
Gonna have to play X-Men and
film school in the West. But for some reason, this one script he had developed and became obsessed with just didn't resonate with any producers or investors, and it kept getting rejected. People in the industry kept telling him it was too dark, too strange, and too unrealistic to be ever made. So he sold his laptop, his main writing tool at the time, to make ends meet, and moved back in with his mother and grandmother, thinking it would be a temporary step-bag while he figured things out. But it didn't turn out to be so temporary. For roughly the next decade, that script sat on the sidelines, passed over and dismissed, while he kept believing in it enough to revisit and reshape it whenever he had the chance. His name was Dong-hyuk Hwang, and that script, first written in 2009 and rejected for almost a decade, it eventually gets picked up on Netflix, and Squid Game would go on to become one of the most watched series in the platform's history. It helped push Korean dramas. But here is the part almost no one talks about. How much did Hwang, the creator of Squid Game, a series that would totally generate close to $900 million in revenue for Netflix, actually make in the first season? It's not clear from the public record exactly how much, but what is clear is that he received essentially a one-time fixed fee as creator and director, with no royalties and no means or share of the IP. He had been fighting for over 10 years to be made. In interviews, he's been clear about this. Squid Game didn't make him rich. Netflix gave him a shot when no one else did and allowed him to make a living, which is something. But the life-changing upside went somewhere else. Hwang has renegotiated Netflix for the second and third seasons of Squid Game, and he's now the far strongest negotiation. But his original deal is still representative of the cracks and glossy surface of the Korean drama world. From the outside, it looks like Korean drama is entering a golden age and sliding into the past. Shows like Crash Landing on You, Itaewon Class, and Goblin are titles almost every K-drama can recognize, and Korean actors are showing up everywhere from But what if I told you that based on our research and conversations with people working inside the industry, the mood behind the scenes is very different. Budgets are ballooning out. Many production companies are struggling under mounting debt and cash flow problems. And writers in many cases are either less while working longer hours than they did a decade ago. So how does Korea keep pumping out some of the most addictive drama series on the planet while the people actually making them are barely hanging on? Let's dive in, because by the end of this video, you might not be for sure the so-called golden age of K-drama is actually sustainable, though there could be a way out. Before we get to Netflix and Squid Game, we have to understand the secret formula of K-drama and what makes it so addictive, which might not be so secret if you're a K-drama fan, because it often feels like it's always the same story. A successful and good-looking CEO falls for an nasty in-laws, childhood trauma, crazy twists in the final episodes that suddenly justify all the revenge. But one thing you can't argue with is the result. These shows are ridiculously easy to get hooked on. You finish one episode and they just make you check out the next. You say to yourself, hey, I'll just watch the beginning of the next episode and notice it. Next thing you know, you watch the whole damn series for 16 hours straight and you're wrecked at 4 a.m. Hey, I'm guilty of it. The idea of binge watching in Korea existed long before Netflix popularized the term. And South Korea has been quietly building and perfecting one of the most effective storytelling machines in the world for decades. One thing I've noticed, and I'm sure hardcore K-drama fans have too, is that they seem to always stick with the 16-episode format. I'm not talking about the recent Netflix-style K-dramas, but the traditional broadcast K-drama defined the genre for years. I'll come back to this specific format shortly, but from our research, it didn't used to be that way. In the 1970s and 80s, Korean TV was dominated by long, never-ending family and feature shows like Country Diaries, which holds the title of the longest-running Korean drama of all time, ran for over 20 years and more than 1,000 episodes. The Country Diaries would just follow villagers through their everyday joys and hardships, and the series trained a whole generation of Korean viewers to live with characters over time and actually care about small emotional beats. Who shares a meal with whom? Who holds a grudge? Who swallows their pride? Then in the 1990s, the big three public broadcasters in South Korea, KBS, NBC, and SBS, started experimenting with these usually aired twice a week, and some experiments with 20 The viewers begin to know a huge portion of the Korean population is tune in and be glued to their TV. Shows like First Love on KBS hold ratings that peaked around 65 to 66% nationwide. Numbers that are basically unimaginable for comparison with cable, streaming platforms, and smartphones providing everybody's attention today. Most new dramas in Korean public TV are fighting over ratings at the low single digits. Hitting even 10% now feels like a once-in-a-while miracle. Anyway, putting that crazy 1990s popularity aside, 20-plus episode series were expensive to produce and sag in the middle. Pace dragged, plots stretched just to fill airtime, and audiences started to lose interest. At the same time, costs were going up and competition was getting tougher. So those runs started shrinking gradually, and 16 episodes finally emerged as the sweet spot. least for weekday miniseries. Long lacking a completely technical characters, the short enough to feel. But there was also an economic reason for the 16-episode format. Korean broadcasters wanted a structure that could neatly into an 8-week advertising cycle and 2 episodes per week, so advertisers could lock in their buys with predictable ratings. This consistency meant broadcasters could pre-sell ad slots for the entire run before the first episode even aired. In other words, the format wasn't just a storytelling sweet spot, it was an economic machine designed to keep money flowing steadily. Here's the breakdown of the emotional arc, or rough blueprint of most classic 16-episode K-dramas. The first 4 episodes set up the world and hit you with the core hook. The big what is this show really about moment, whether that's a shocking incident, a high-concept premise, or a memorable first encounter between the leads that makes you want to see these 2 people together or apart. The next 4 episodes are where you really start to live with the characters, sharing their routines, seeing their flaws, watching relationships deepen while new secrets quietly get planted. Episodes 9 to 12 twist the knife with betrayals, separations, and reveals at a point when you're already too emotionally invested to walk away. And the final 4 episodes are all about payoff and catharsis, confessions, justice, forgiveness, or at least some kind of emotional release. The emotional climax usually hits somewhere around episodes 14 or 15, with a major reveal or final big conflict, and the very last episode usually focuses on Of course, not every show follows it perfectly, and for viewers, this created an emotional pull source. If you invest in the story, it'll actually end. No endless seasons or 5-season cliffhangers. 16 episodes. But that's the super episode format. But there's another layer to this, a kind of emotional code that's very specific to it. Korean dramas are built on 2 ideas that don't really have direct English equivalents. The first is the concept of family, deep, sticky affection or emotional bonds formed slowly between people who share everyday life together. Co-workers who always be at the same table, neighbors who differ but show up to soup when somebody hits. It's not just moments, it's the feeling of these are my people. Second is a concept called time, a kind of compressed sorrow and resentment that never fully goes away. Characters carry old wounds, a ruined family, a humiliation they cannot forget. That occasionally stretch those feelings. Instead of rushing to the twist, you can live with the character day after day until the apology, confession, or the revenge finally explodes in many episodes later. That's why the payoff feels pretty intense. The burden starts to feel your burden, but the real secret weapon of K-dramas was the way they were made. Unlike in the US, where most episodes are written and shot before they air, many Korean dramas were going on TV while they were still being filmed. Episode 1 and 2 was being aired while episodes 5 and 6 were shooting, and the finale was still being rewritten. That meant it wasn't real time in the social media sense, but the ratings.
I'm ready to put on a show!
Viewers spent a love with a side character, that character's role will suddenly change. The subplot tank might finally disappear. The whole system was a brutal feedback loop where writers choose to work insane hours, but the story can bend itself towards the end. Terrible for sleep, great for engagement. By the early 2000s, this well-oiled storytelling machine was ready to leave Korea. The first big breakthrough came with Winter Soldier. It was just a melancholy love story with amnesia and lots of snow. But when it aired on NHK in Japan, the middle-aged viewers were so hard for it that they bought DVDs and soundtracks and even flew to South Korea to visit its filming locations, including the now famous Lakeside Ranch. It proved that the storytelling style could resonate far beyond Korea. The long emotional arcs, the moral clarity, the mix of everyday detail and melodrama. By the late 2000s, people weren't talking about individual hit shows anymore. They were talking about the whole Korean wave of K-drama getting tapes and Korean films becoming a full-blown export industry and a deliberate soft power tool for South Korea. So from the outside, it looked like everyone was winning. Broadcasters had hit shows they could sell abroad. Stars and a few famous writers became household names across the world. Korea's image was transformed from a modern culture vector. But under the hood, the money told a very different story. The big three TV networks and a few major distributors usually owned the rights to the show because they were the ones in this case, by the time, outsourced to make most of the Korean drama. They would generally pay a fixed production fee to look each scene. They would part of the budget, the same margin, but not a ticket for long-term profit. Here's what's interesting. Those production houses surrender long-term rights to the show as part of the deal in exchange for securing financing and guaranteed fees paid at a stage during and right after the show, rather than deliveries and future backup income during the next season. In that environment, the idea of revenue sharing or residuals for most barely existed as a norm. This meant writers had to be paid per episode, not per success. In a typical setup, the main writer would get a per episode script fee, and the junior writers working under them would get a much smaller cut. Industry reporting before the Netflix boom describes assistants earning around 400,000 won per episode, roughly $300 at the time for grueling live shoot schedules. And grueling is not an exaggeration. The live shoot system routinely forced crews to survive on 2 or 3 hours of sleep, with writers rewriting scenes overnight and actors pushed through such punishing timetables that fainting or hospital visits were not uncommon. There were documented on-set accidents, production delays, and entire finales that visibly collapsed in quality because everyone involved was simply out of energy. Many had to get IV drips to fight exhaustion. Most writers and creatives were paid barely above minimum wage for brutal hours and endless nights, and only a tiny group of superstar writers and A-list actors had the power to negotiate big paychecks. Most importantly, almost nobody in the creative process, even the stars, actually owned the underlying intellectual property or IP that kept making money long after the show ended. Overseas licensing, reruns, almost all that IP money was back to the big broadcasters and a handful of major distributors, unless an independent production house was large enough to negotiate some revenue.
30 seconds before
The
you
vast
attack.
majority were
Get
not,
ready.
and they were often just thankful to be chosen for work at all.
Spies and
That was the
thieves.
unfortunate
We got a lot in
reality
common,
of
no?
the Korean drama industry, and by the early 2010s, this entire model was already cracking. Production companies were barely surviving. Writers were exhausted. The live shoot system created constant chaos. And broadcasters, despite owning all the IP, were tightening their budgets. Even when cable giants like and pushed production budgets higher, losing sense of depth and experimenting with more cinematic storytelling, the fundamental pay model for most writers and production crews barely changed. The broadcasters, public or cable, still own the rights, and the people actually creating the drama still weren't seeing any meaningful upside when shows like Crash Landing on You and Flight 1988 and Megan. In 2016, Han Bit Lee, a young assistant director at TVN, actually took his own life. He left a note exposing that despite the prestige of the creative talent, the crew was being 20 hours a day, abused, and fired. His death revealed that the cool modern cable owners were running the same sweatshop labor practices as the old public broadcasters. So when a new global streaming service like Netflix came along, most of the industry didn't really think much of it. Netflix was already disrupting DVDs and cable in the US, but in Korea, it looked like a harmless foreign buyer licensing a handful of Korean titles. Korea still had strong domestic ratings, powerful cable channels, and well-oiled drama machine. No one imagine that Netflix would someday compete directly with the Korean broadcasters themselves. At first, Netflix did play it safe by securing the license and see how it can actually work. As soon as it became clear that Korea's goals were training and more real engagement, it's in that context, the creator of Squid Game finally sold a strange survival story to Netflix that Korean broadcasters rejected for years. By commissioning Squid Game, Netflix stepped into these boundaries for itself. And that decision didn't just launch a global trend, it rewired the industry forever. In 2020, something happened that almost no one in the global media industry, or anyone else for that matter, thought was possible. The world went into lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and for the first time in modern history, the global content machine stopped, except in a few places around the world. And one of those places happened to be South Korea. That timing is important because Netflix had actually entered the pandemic before the pandemic. It launched service in Korea in 2016 and started licensing local Korean shows. At that point, Netflix was still just one more player in the K-drama ecosystem, knowing to some big Korean broadcasters, exciting to some Korean creators looking for opportunities, but not yet the center of gravity. But why was it annoying to the Korean broadcasters? Because Netflix was doing something that the broadcasters themselves had never been able to do, making Korean content instantly available to a global audience without waiting for regional licensing deals, of course. When a drama aired on KBS or KBN, it might take months or even years to reach the Japan, China, or Southeast Asia, if it ever got to them. Netflix could drop a show simultaneously in 190 different countries. That meant Korean broadcasters were suddenly competing not just with each other for domestic rights, but with a foreign platform that had deeper costs, no legacy infrastructure cost, and a global distribution machine they just couldn't compete with. At first, the relationship was almost symbiotic. Netflix was able to license all the Korean dramas for fractions shows that had already aired on Korean TV and recouped most of the costs through domestic investment. Korean broadcasters were cool because they got easy extra revenue from foreign buyers, and Netflix got a library of proven content that allowed its Asian catalog. Actually, I should make it clear that Korean broadcasters were more than happy to license their drama to anyone at that time, because timing couldn't have been worse. In 2016, China, Korea's single largest overseas buyer of K-dramas, effectively banned most Korean entertainment after the THAAD missile display. THAAD is a U.S. anti-missile defense system Korea agreed to host, that China saw as a national security threat. Practically overnight, Korean dramas, concerts, celebrities, and media disappeared from these platforms, and Korean broadcasters lost hundreds of millions of dollars worth of licensing revenue. Netflix suddenly became one of the few global buyers who actually became real marketing content. But as those licensed shows started driving serious global engagement, Korean broadcasters and distributors realized they had been underpricing their content. They started raising licensing fees and playing hardballs in negotiations, trying to capture most of the value Netflix was clearly extracting from the market. So Netflix looked at the dynamic and made a strategic call. They knew Korean broadcasters would kick around the popular licensing fees, leading to their margins and budgets, not to mention they'll be held hostage to a content library of the local channel. That's when Netflix changed its model from licensing partner to commissioning partner for Korean content. Instead of buying finished shows, Netflix started greenlighting originals, fully financed, with IP locked out for movies. I didn't know this before I looked into it, Kingdom, the zombie historical thriller that dropped in 2019, was actually the proof of concept for Netflix. A big-budget Korean drama that was entirely financed by and belonged to Netflix globally and could never be sold with competitors. For Korean broadcasters and distributors, it was the beginning of losing control over their own industry's future. When COVID shut down productions in North America and Europe, Netflix suddenly began to with travel globally. Remember, by this point, we had already validated the thesis that Korean originals would work. You see, South Korea had managed to keep sets operating under strict health and safety protocols, mandatory testing, contact tracing, school bubbles, and quarantine systems that allowed production to continue at a reduced capacity. Here was an advanced production hub. Your powers are mine! Disciplined live proven track record of sporting sports. In other words, exactly the kind of machine you want to speed a global stream of dominance when the rest of the world was stuck at home desperate for help. And boy, did Netflix have it. Before Netflix, a typical primetime Korean drama might cost somewhere around $3 to $5 million to produce for a full 16-episode series. That budget covered everything: cast, crew, locations, and post-production. Broadcasters would finance most of it through a mix of advertising commitments and their own capital. And producers would deliver the show for a fixed fee that left them with maybe a 10 to 15% margin if they managed costs well. As Netflix and later other global and domestic platforms began commissioning originals, they weren't bound by traditional broadcast scheduling slots or the 2 episodes per week rhythm. They could drop entire seasons at once, and they cared more about total watch time and engagement than fitting neatly into a broadcaster's grid. So episode counts start to vary. Some Netflix originals shrank to 12, 10, even 8 episodes, depending on the story and the deal. By the early 2020s, the standard 16-episode format was no longer automatic. It had become just one option among many. Netflix also changed the math on budgets entirely. They started commissioning Korean originals with budgets in the $20 to $30 million range, sometimes higher, meaning a single Netflix series could cost 10 times more than a typical 16-episode broadcast drama. Netflix also paid 100 to 110% of production costs up front, sometimes more, which meant producers no longer had to scramble for co-financing or beg advertisers to pay. The money came in milestone payments in production and right after the movie, not years later when overseas licenses finally. Meanwhile, Korea's strict advertising regulations capped how much domestic broadcasters could earn per episode, regardless of how big a hit the show became. So there was simply no mechanism for Korean broadcasters to raise more money to compete with Netflix's budgets, since Netflix faced none of those restrictions. For Korean producers and creators used to operating in razor-thin margins, this felt transformative. Here's the math. If Netflix commissions a show with a $25 million budget, and the production company negotiates a 12% producer fee on top of that budget, that's an additional $3 million in revenue just for delivering the show. And if you could line up multiple Netflix projects back to back, you could finally start building a real business instead of a surviving project for profit. At first, Korean producers were blown away by the numbers. The more they deliver successful projects and build credibility, the more they realize bigger, more ambitious concepts. Usually, Netflix would win them, especially if the project involved star talent or high production value. Why? Because Netflix knew it could make far more money by owning the IP and everything that came with it. Global streaming rights, remake potential, merchandise, spin-offs, format sales. Basically, any revenue stream that comes from being the IP owner. And once you understand that, you can see how this leads to hyperinflation of budgets. They exploded. Another way Korean creators discovered they could get paid more under Netflix was by shrinking the episode count even further. Because writing and directing fees are calculated on a per episode basis, who suddenly started seeing Korean Netflix originals on 6 or 8 episodes. It's basically economic optimization. And as budgets grew, talent fees shot up with them. Top Korean actors who might have earned around $50,000 per episode of the broadcast era began commanding $200,000 to $300,000 per episode, sometimes even more. The biggest star writers like Im Soo Kim, who had been earning around $20,000 per episode in the years leading up to Descendants of the Sun, eventually crossed the 100 million won, or roughly $80,000 US mark per episode after mega hits like Goblin and Mr. Sunshine. So on the surface, the drama industry appeared to be making a comeback. Bigger budgets, more international attention, more money flowing through production companies than ever before. But for Korean producers, this new scale is not necessarily less than before, but more precarious and more dependent. Here's why. Since they never get to share the upside,
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
The only way for Korean producers to earn more money is by getting bigger projects from bigger budgets. So that this 10 to 15% producers would be the larger influence. And look, it's only when you see Netflix making $900 million of statement while you're pocketing a fixed pay from 2019, their expectations go up. They start thinking, why am I taking all the financial risk if I'm not getting a share of the upside? So producers push for bigger budgets, not out of greed, but out of a simple need to earn enough to justify the risks. Their logic is the entire industry into an arms race. Every new drama had to be more ambitious, more expensive, more star-studded than the last, just to justify the economics. This is not building a sustainable business. We're running faster and faster just to stay in the same place. But here is the ultimate. Once you're betting $25 to $30 million on a single show, you cannot guarantee success or at least feel like you're guaranteed. Because if you fail, you might not be bringing it for a high competition. Sure, there are now other Netflix competitors in Korea that you can also pitch to, like Amazon Prime and Disney Plus, not to mention domestic Korean platforms like Futon Play. Here's the thing, they're all going after the same pool of top-tier Korean talent and are just as unforgiving when it comes to failures, because they're in a bloody competition. So what do Korean producers pitch? Safe bets, proven themes, A-list actors with track records, ideally an IP that already has a fan base. That's why webtoon adaptations exploded in the Netflix era. They came in with built-in audiences and reduced the perceived risk of a massive budget. Instead of developing original and creative scripts like Squid Game that put Korean drama on the global map, the industry increasingly chases proven formulas. The paradox is rather ironic, isn't it? You would think bigger budgets should theoretically allow for more creative risk and ambition, but the current Netflix model, where Korean producers bear the financial risk but get no upside, flipped that logic on its head, even as everyone started getting paid much better than before. Well, almost everyone. Because before we forget, the average junior writer or assistant writer is still getting paid barely below minimum wage, typically around $300 to $1,200 per episode. Maybe the real problem isn't just the unfair nature of the deal. Maybe it's that the money itself got too big. When you're gambling on that much on a single show, the risk calculus changes for the worse, regardless of whether you can. Either way, here is your way. The Netflix trap means more money, less experience, more sequels, more adaptations, more predictable formulas. Original storytelling is the riskiest investment you can make, which is exactly the opposite of what an industry is currently in the golden age should be. Fortunately, the soul of Korean drama storytelling is already beginning to erode. And the forces accelerating this erosion are far more disruptive than anything Netflix introduced. So it would appear that Netflix now completely dominates Korea's drama industry with its virtually unlimited budget, and Korean content has never been more visible or more celebrated worldwide. Yet beneath that global success, the industry itself is finally collapsing. Hopefully, we now have a much clearer system. But to make matters worse, something else is happening independent of the Netflix. Because what exploded during the pandemic wasn't just Netflix original. It was TikTok, short-form video, micro-dramas. At first, the idea of taking a traditional one-hour drama, chopping it into 60-second vertical micro-dramas for smartphones seemed absurd. I remember thinking, would people really watch stories told in bite-sized vertical episodes? The Korean drama industry probably had the exact same reaction. TikTok's super powerful algorithm rewired the viewing behavior of the entire generation. South Korea now has one of the highest short-form video consumption rates in the world. Gen Z Koreans doom scroll through TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts for hours, and many openly admit that long-form dramas were too slow since they're watching it on 1.5x. That's why the appetite for fast vertical storytelling exploded so suddenly, and why
Mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
Algorithms became better than human writers at predicting what you want to watch next, creating a constant dopamine loop that traditional storytelling cannot compete. Meanwhile, something that everyone had been waiting for didn't happen. Pandemic struck, and people could go outside again, travel, or socialize, and they stopped spending entire weekends on binge watching 10 hours of episodes. As a result, global streaming viewership and subscriber growth slowed everywhere, not just platforms like Netflix and Netflix. Fewer projects were approved, and episode counts shrank. Suddenly, Korea's entire production model became even more unsustainable because during the pandemic boom, Korean entertainment companies had massively overexpanded. They assumed that demand for scripted content would just keep on climbing forever. So they bought US production studios for billions, invested in new facilities, and hired more writers, more crews, and more everything. But when the streaming slowdown hit, reality came crashing down. Korean studios were left with enormous to keep the machine running. If the long-form market is shrinking, and by the eye of Agamotto, where does the Korean producer actually go? That's when the industry started looking for China. Because just as long-form economics were collapsing, China's short-form micro-drama ecosystem was exploding into a multi-billion-dollar gold rush. Chinese micro-dramas, often called Guanju, which roughly translates to short dramas or vertical dramas, are typically 30 to 90 seconds per episode, packaged into a series of 50 to 100 episodes, and they use a classic freemium model. The first handful of episodes are free. After that, you pay a small amount to unlock each subsequent episode through tokens or coin systems. A huge Chinese yuan, or roughly 30 to 50. By the eye of Agamotto! According to one report in June 2024, the user base for micro-dramas in China reached over 570 million people. And individual hit series can generate millions of dollars in revenue despite production budgets that are a fraction of traditional TV. It works because paying a few cents to unlock the next episode feels easier than waiting. Added advertising, VIP bundles, and platform upsells on top of the micro-payments. And you get a system that generates higher average revenue per user than traditional subscription streaming. Their only goal is to maximize completion rate and trigger the next payment, not to create art. By 2024, the microdrama industry had already surpassed the entire Chinese film industry in annual revenue, pulling in roughly $7 billion. Analysts think that this format could rival or even surpass long-form streaming within a few years in China. So Korean producers are watching all of this unfold and asking themselves, wait, should we be doing this too? Of course, the Korean market is much smaller and the production
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
But once they saw how much money Chinese companies were making, the incentive calculation changed. A traditional 16-episode K-drama might take 1 or 2 years
Make
to
way
develop,
for the king
film,
of
and
teams.
release, and requires big stars, massive crews, and enormous overhead. Meanwhile, a microdrama can be written, shot, and monetized in as little as 1 to 3 weeks, using unknown actors and a team of maybe 5 to 10 people. And unlike Netflix originals, where producers surrender all IP and get paid only once, microdramas let producers keep ownership.
Gonna have to play X-Men and Team if I want to win this one.
And take almost no financial risk. In other words, microdramas could offer them something Netflix never gave them: speed,
30 seconds
control,
before you
and the
attack.
possibility
Get ready.
of real upside. So Korean companies like Top Reels launched in 2024, mimicking the Chinese model almost exactly. Roughly 2-minute vertical episodes.
Shouldn't that have earned us your respect instead of your ire?
The Democrats hold a candlelight vigil and sing God Bless America to commemorate the anniversary of January 6th. They're all holding the candles. This is so fucking sad. It's so choreographed and staged. It is. Look at them all. They're like, okay, let's pose for the photo together, guys. I bet they're not even real candles. Look at how sideways she's holding that candle. I don't even think these are these here. These, wait, they can't even figure out the audio. Their battery, so they don't even have real candles.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you to Leader Jeffries, to my Senate colleagues and all members of the House, and thank you to all of those in attendance today who loved ones because of January 6th.
Who loved ones because of January 6th? Wait, what?
Who loved ones because of January 6th. Who loved ones because of January 6th. To Officer Brian Sicknick's mother and brother, Gladys and Glenn. Gladys and I are
oh my God.
together. To Officer Jeffrey Smith's spouse, Eric, and to everyone else, thank you for being here.
It's crazy as they don't talk about the one woman that got killed in January 6th, right? Like, you're going to talk about the officers that were there, but you're not going to talk about the woman that was killed? That's kind of crazy. How about that?
We are here today because we must never forget what happened on January 6th 5 years ago. Not only must we remember it, but so much our children.
Holy shit, man. Get it together. I mean, he's just totally phoning it in. This is bad.
Our grandchildren and future generations. The day democracy is placed at greater risk than it has been in a century, in more than a century.
This guy wanted to do a, he wanted to have like a referendum or something like that on saying that Nick Fuentes was bad. I'm not even kidding you. That's where we're at.
5 years ago, a vicious mob tried to undo American democracy. Thousands of rioters, egged on by Donald Trump, stormed the U.S. Capitol, smashed its windows, desecrated its hallways, ransacked its offices in an attempt to steal the 2020 election. Members hid in the House chamber. Staffers barricaded themselves in offices, hid behind desks, fearing for their lives.
Great job.
I remember the moment. I was sitting at my desk. I had just become putative majority leader because we had won the election the night before, and I'm sitting there feeling, wow. And all of a sudden, I feel an arm, hand, grab my collar. Never forget that feel. My brave police officer, Mike Brzezinski, said, "Senator, we got to get out of here. You're in danger." And I looked up at the podium and I saw Pence being rushed off the platform. We went out the Senate door, made a right turn, opened another door, and we were within 20 feet of those rioters, of those insurrectionists. One of them looked at me and said, "There he is, get him!" But because of the work of my brave police officers, led by Mike Brzezinski, I wasn't hurt.
Great job.
Oh, no.
Let us never mince words about what happened again. Those who try to lie about it, those who try to make up myths about it, we're not there. We were. Most of us. You know exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Exactly what happened. And then, even more malicious, Donald Trump's White House released a maliciously false account that blamed the Capitol Police for the violence.
Jesus
Christ. How disgraceful, how despicable, how disgusting, how low. Donald Trump showed what a low human being he is by his actions.
It's crazy to me that they hyper-fixate on January 6th. Like, yeah, obviously it was bad that January 6th happened, for sure. But, like, this over-fixation around it, trying to center everything around it. I mean, I care, but not that much. Holy shit.
Ain't nobody
it's all they have. Yeah, it's all
in
they have.
preceding days, where he tried to lie and cover up.
I am ready to put
the
on a
truth.
show.
It's pathetic.
It's
I know, it's so
stunning. He
embarrassing.
is stunning in his maliciousness and his dishonesty. And then, to show truly who he was once again, if his evil characters, his bad characters, didn't come through enough, on the first day of his presidency,
the second time,
he issued a blanket pardon for every single criminal who attacked our police on January 6th. And now,
Ain't nobody stealing Gambit's
in
chance
a
to win.
vicious twist of the truth, he blames law enforcement for the violence.
I think he blames them for not sending in more people ahead of time. Like, that's not really what happened. I mean, like, he's not blaming really the law enforcement. He's blaming the lack of personnel. It's a lot different. It's porn acting? Yeah, I guess so.
In the face of such blatant lies, let us all tell the truth, and let future generations remember it. On January 6th, our Capitol Police officers were heroes.
Nancy Pelosi denied the National Guard. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true. That's what I heard a lot. Why are they? What exactly do they say about the rioters that ripped apart LA and attacked police? No, but nothing. And that's why you should never take any of this seriously. Like, yeah, sure, January 6th was bad, but I'm not going to hold. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, this is such a horrible thing. I need to apologize for all the time. Whenever they're going and making excuses for people burning down buildings and destroying property, blocking roads constantly in LA. And this is all over the country. They're doing these ICE protests, the BLM riots happened, thousands of things got destroyed, millions of dollars of damage was done. You had like Portland turn into a PvP server. Like, what are we talking about? Like, yeah, January 6th was bad, but you're comparing a mountain to a molehill. It's nuts.
Our DC police were heroes.
The Tesla,
Our law
yeah, the Tesla burning happened this year.
protected this building, protected lives, protected democracy. Were our true heroes, and to them, personified by the Sicknick and Smith
That shot, the
families,
14-year-old was killed there?
we say
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, that was in Portland. You are the great American. Oh my.
You are the great American. You are the not spent for his millions. And it is
Look at her clapping.
millions.
Jesus Christ.
And it is just
Give it a
so,
fucking rest.
so disappointing,
Jesus fuck.
confounding. The great American. You are the great. Not Trump and his minions. And it is
Look at her clapping.
minions.
Jesus Christ.
And it is
Give it a
just
fucking rest.
so disappointing,
Jesus fucking
confounding,
Holy
troubling, that so
Make
many
way
in
for the
Donald
king of
Trump's
teams.
party now have fallen in line with what they know is a big lie.
The problem is that it's not that it's a big lie. It's that January 6th was really bad. It's that why should conservatives and the people that are supporting Donald Trump constantly flagellate and punish themselves for January 6th whenever you won't even take accountability whenever bad actions are being done on your side? It's like if we had a vigil for every single left-wing crash out, every day would be a vigil. Like the amount of assassinations, Tesla burnings, the BLM riots, holy shit. And the problem really isn't that
30 seconds before you attack.
the issue is
Get
that
ready.
there's not an even standard. And so why should these people hold themselves accountable for bad actions that happened on January 6th when you won't even hold yourselves accountable for actions that are happening this year? January 6th was 5 years ago.
Things about to go
This
down
happened
here.
this year. Remember defund the police? Yeah, exactly.
The battle starts in 5.
About what happened that day.
3, 2,
Whether it's fear,
Tried to make it happen 80 years ago.
whether it's viciousness, whether it's deceit, low political advantage. Almost all of them seem to go along with the big lie, and every time they do, they weaken structure and the party.
The big lie is, by the way, it's a concept that's invented by the Nazis. It's always there's always a little bit of messaging there, right?
Of this country and the beauty of this country. So, while Donald Trump pardons insurrectionists and lets those who attack our police officers walk free, we stand here with our first responders.
Now you do the same for me.
We will make sure that your sacrifices that day are never forgotten, nor will we ever forget the lives of those we lost in the connection with the attack. We pray for all our deceased responders, our first responders, and our families. And in conclusion, let us remember the attack on January 6th is not over. It lives on in the threats to our election workers. It lives on to those who want to take away our right to vote. Who want to legalize voter discrimination. We must never...
Legalize voter discrimination? You mean voter ID? So if voter ID is racist, does that mean alcohol is racist? Like, because they make you show an ID to buy alcohol. Isn't that racist too, by the same logic? Nobody would say that because that's retarded.
Never wanted it to end this way.
Never stop fighting for this beautiful democracy.
Oh my God.
Which January 6th showed us is more fragile than we ever imagined. Donald Trump's big lie is powerful, but the roots of our democracy and our desire to make sure the truth remains the truth are even stronger.
What does voter ID have to do with January 6th? Well, if they implement voter ID, then they can't do scams like the vouching system in Minnesota. They'll probably get like, what do you think the probability is? What percentage breakdown do you think these people get? Like, let's say all the people that don't have an ID and you're doing vouching for voting and all of that. What percentage of those people do you think are voting Democrat? What do you think the percentage is? 85%, 98%, exactly. It's overwhelmingly Democrat. So the reason why they're protecting it is because they're benefiting from it, like, obviously. I don't think it's that complicated.
Perseverance of the American people is greater. So God bless our first responders. God bless America, this great arsenal of democracy.
Wow. Wow. We've got Timu Obama coming up to talk something. Oh, great. Let's hear what you've got to say. Oh, good. Defund the police, yeah.
Good evening. Thank you, Leader Schumer, Speaker Emerita Pelosi, to the Sicknick and Smith family, and to all of my colleagues who are present. Today we gather here on the steps of the United States Congress, the citadel of our democracy, to commemorate the solemn 5-year anniversary.
You think they're talking about the Holocaust?
Of the violent insurrection incited by Donald Trump to overturn the result of a free and fair election. On that fateful day, hundreds of brave, courageous, and dedicated Capitol Police
I hate this
and
performance.
DC officers
It's so
stood
sad.
on these very steps and across the Capitol grounds.
Do you think they'd be doing this if Kamala had won, or is it just Trump propaganda? I think probably not. I think they're probably doing it as just a way to complain about Trump. Yeah, sure.
To defend the Congress, the country, and the Constitution.
Wow.
They were outnumbered by a violent mob, but never overwhelmed by the seriousness of the moment. For more than 5 hours, they were forced to engage in hand-to-hand combat.
Terrible.
Confronting thousands.
If that's so bad, then why aren't you calling all the officers who have to engage in hand-to-hand combat all around the country for these ICE raids? That's the problem, is that it's very selective. So I think that there's a universe where you can say that January 6th was bad, but also all of these raids where people assault and attack officers all around the country are also bad. And whenever you're only saying one of them was bad, you're lying. That's what you're doing. You're lying.
Bloodthirsty rioters who were unleashed by Donald Trump. They were beaten with pipes, whipped, assaulted by bear spray, and pummeled by Confederate flagpoles. They were bloody, but
I don't remember a single Confederate flag. I'm sure there was one or two, but I don't remember any of those. Confederate flagpoles. Usually it's the flags that are Confederate, not the pole.
Unbowed. We owe these heroes an eternal debt of gratitude, and we'll never forget their service and their sacrifice. Had it not been for their bravery on that fateful day, many of us would not be alive right now, standing on these Capitol steps, continuing to serve our nation.
Yeah.
And I have a simple message for the violent mob of insurrectionists. Donald Trump may have pardoned your crimes, but only God can pardon your sin. James Baldwin once made the
Obama, this is so sad.
observation that history is not merely something to be read. And it does not refer merely or even principally to the past. On the contrary, the great force of history comes from the fact that we carry it within us, are unconsciously controlled by it, and history is literally present in all that we do. It is the history that we owe our frames of reference, our identities, and our aspirations.
Right.
We got here today because we are still living the history of January 6th. And we will never allow it to be whitewashed.
I wonder how
We thank the heroes of
I wonder how many years they're going to do this. I do. I'm actually curious. Is it going to be 2 more years? Are they going to stop doing it after Trump becomes the president? Because, like, there's no way people are going to give a shit about this for, like, a long-term period of time.
January 6th.
Yeah.
We remember those whose lives were lost, aspire to be a better nation, and make clear to the election deniers that we will never allow a violent insurrection to take place on American soil again. Today, we are joined by the families of officers Brian Sicknick and Jeffrey Smith. Gladys,
You'll need a
Ken,
top-notch team to win this
and
one.
Aaron, thank you so much for your presence here today and for your continued strength
Make way for the king
and
of teams.
patriotism.
Incredible. Wow.
But now I ask everyone to join us.
I will bring peace to this
in a
universe,
moment of silence,
no matter the cost.
Make
to
way
remember
for the king of teams.
those whose lives were lost as a result of the tragic and horrific events
This is so
of January 6,
They're all bowing their heads down.
2021.
Oh, man. Yeah. This is boomer bait. Yeah, I mean, you've got to be. I mean, like, you've got to be like 60 years old to even take this seriously at all, right? I mean, there's no way that there's somebody that doesn't have gray hair is watching this and being like, "Feel strong, man." Yeah, so based. There's no way, right? It's got to just be all old people.
Well, let's just say shivering around you.
Oh my God.
Reminds me what I liked growing up in the South.
Put a normal person back on the mic. Yeah.
In 5, 4,
You make it more
3,
obvious he's reading a
2,
script. It's negative
1.
charisma. It's just embarrassing, man. It really is sad.
We need to stop that vehicle in its tracks.
And God bless those whose lives have been lost, their families, Capitol Police, members of law enforcement, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Incredible. Wow. Truly amazing. This is so brave that they did this. Wow. Incredibly brave. Man, how many? I'm not American. How many millions died? You mean billions?
Side and ride through the night with the light from above, from the mountain to.
These pathetic fucking retards. Oh my god. This is their main channel. This is the Senate Democrat channel. This is how do you do this? Well, guys, I don't even. What do you say about something like this? They cut off the singing. Hey, they did us a favor, okay? They did. Well, there it is. 459 views. Great job, guys. Truly incredible, brave, shocking, amazing. Wow. And so, Jesus Christ. Marco Rep, the number world sponsor. I guess so. Let me see that JD Vance make a tweet about this. Is it true? Let me see what it is.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
Oh God. Okay, that's great. Yeah, good job, man. And that's perfect. Malcolm. Yeah, it's just so fucking embarrassing. Look like who the fuck wants to look like a middle-aged woman? Nobody, especially not middle-aged women. That's why they get plastic surgery. So what the fuck are you doing, adding them into the story that nobody wants to see? You're retarded. Same with Mortal Kombat. They look like 45-year-old soccer moms going to a Pilates class. Who the fuck wants to see that? Nobody.
The cosmos heals you. Cosmic
I'm just being. Look. That's just it.
Healing power.
Everybody knows this.
The admission's only been forced grudgingly out of them by sheer financial necessity, but it's something at least. And never let it be said that the drinker doesn't offer a helping hand to those in need. So if I could offer a few pieces of advice, speaking with someone who's in prison here, I'd say they have to come to terms with a few realities about their situation. The first reality is that not everything you make can appeal to everyone, and nor should you try. Movies like Barbie and Top Gun Maverick are proof that when you target a specific audience and give them exactly what they want without trying to dilute it down in the hopes of appealing to a new, bigger market, you can and will make an absolute fortune. The second reality is any project revolving around adventure, science fiction, action, or
If there's ever a story about an oath to your kingdom, an obligation
There's
to
still so
your
much to
family
do.
lineage or heritage, you having to uphold your honor
Only 60
against,
seconds left.
you know, insurmountable forces, and there is gratuitous violence that is used in order to achieve those goals, you are looking at what I would call the male fantasy.
Thanks so much.
That's for guys.
Now I see
It's not
them.
for girls.
Anyone willing to help?
It's not that girls can't enjoy it.
Healing power.
Many of them do.
I feel better
But
already.
it's for guys.
Technology, like say, I don't know, Star Wars and Marvel, is probably going to skew male. I don't know what to tell you, man, but men and women tend to be interested in different things, and no amount of social conditioning or deconstruction is ever going to change that. And if they're your two biggest franchises that you probably
And the
want...
problem also is the toxic positivity that this culture is enforcing inside of workplaces. Because if you're the guy that says, you know what, maybe we shouldn't have a bald, fat, middle-aged woman replace the hot in latex that was in the previous movie in this remake. You get called a sexist, you get called a misogynist, you get called a bad person, and they destroy your character, and you end up getting fired, and you lose your career. That's the issue. That's where, you lose your job, right? Yeah, you're peer pressured into quitting, exactly. And so instantly canceled. No, you are. That's really what happened. And do you have bed bugs? What the fuck is bed bugs? I'll be right back. Sorry about I use that.
Needed that more than you know.
These creatures maybe there's
How'd you
so
end up
much to
enjoying
do.
Free Run, even though it isn't aimed at guys?
Stop them.
Because it's a good story, and truly beautiful and great stories will transcend gender boundaries. Like Lord of the Rings, like Free Run, like the Bible.
The cosmos heals.
That's the reason why. And also, it does appeal to men. Himmel the hero is great. Like, you've got tons of characters in that story. There's no men in that story that are just like these, you know, like basically feminist caricatures or minstrel plays of what a tough guy is supposed to be. Yeah, Stark is there too. Yeah, Stark isn't. He's not a loser. Like, he's a goof boy a little bit. Yeah, sure, but he's not. He's not a joke. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly, and that's the difference.
Look who's here.
A little help, please.
To resurrect and get profitable again, then you're going to have to accept that your primary demographic is men and cater the content accordingly. The third reality is that you need to bring back masculine heroes if you want to get a male audience back.
Wow, what a surprise. If you want to have guys watch characters or watch the show, you have to make the show about guys. Can you believe that? Wow, what a surprise.
This time I need healing.
And I'm not talking about the safe, feminized, corporate-approved Pedro Pascal brand of
With the amazing Spider-Man.
Guys don't like that. I'm sorry, they don't. They don't. Like, I don't care what somebody wants to say. It doesn't sell. It doesn't fucking sell. It's obvious that it doesn't fucking sell. Stop trying to sell it. If you do, you're gonna fail.
Second chance.
That's the reason.
masculinity. There's basically just a woman with a mustache, but the actual male archetype of masculinity that's been practically outlawed in modern media. Men who are smart, capable, assertive, confident, complex, and maybe even a bit dangerous, who don't resort to verbal diarrhea or fold like a house of cards the moment a woman challenges them on something. Those are the kinds of characters that men have been drawn to for decades. Guess what? They
millenniums. You go back at stories in the Bible and it's like this. You go back and you look at stories in the Odyssey, it's like this. This is fucking Beowulf. It is Samson, yes, exactly. It's not like they just invented this in the, like, you know, in like the 1900s we invented mass. No, this is the way it's been for fucking ever. It's been this way for forever. Or if I said decades, yeah.
Still are.
Nah,
no amount
it's been
of
a
guilt
while.
tripping or toxic masculinity bullshit is ever going to change that. The fourth and final reality is that everyone, men and women both, are fucking sick of girl bosses. They are, without a doubt, one of the most obnoxious products of modern culture. They've ruined practically everything they've been crowbarred into, and they have.
And I think behind every girl boss is a fat feminist writer with a nose earring.
have to go. That
That's
doesn't
the
mean
way
for
it
1
is.
second that you can't have intelligent, complex, capable, and well-written female characters that
Yep.
push and rival their male
Or a soy boy.
counterparts. In
Yep.
fact, you